agenda is approval of the agenda. Do we have a motion for approval of the agenda?
Make a motion.
Do we have a second?
Second.
Do we have any discussion? Okay, no discussion, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Next on the agenda is recognition.
For recognitions this month, Jonesville Middle School had the following students who were recognized by the Kingsport Times News with the drawing card. Those students are Autumn Collingsworth, Jasmine Crawford, Nick Davis, Nicole Fee, Tyler Garwood, Alex Hernandez, Jacob King, Ethan Lamb, Alex Marshall, Sarah Middleton, Tiffany Murphy, Jace Perkins, Morgan Polier, Ashley Shoemaker, Jasmine Stone, Dakota Webb, Jason Walliver, Shane Woodard, and Gage Yates. As you can see, we've had a very busy summer with our students submitting drawing cards.
Next on the agenda is public comment. Anyone care to address the board this time? Next, we'll move on to the consent agenda. Do we have a motion to approve the consent agenda?
I move that we approve the consent agenda with the following items. Minutes from the July 14th, 2016 regular meeting, approval of claims and expenditures, approval of Head Start handbooks and personnel policies, and approval of the 2016-17 Head Start continuation grant number 03CH3460/03.
Do we have a second?
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor signify by stating aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Next, reports of the board. Does anyone have anything they want to address at this time?
Just like to say, I'm happy the turnout we had at Thomas Walker, and not only there, but everywhere else. And I want to commend all the board members that showed up, and thank everyone for all their comments.
And we did have 3 public hearings, including one before this meeting. One at Pennington on Tuesday, at Thomas Walker last night, and then of course the night before the meeting. The purpose of these public hearings was to get public comment concerning the possibility of converting to block scheduling. So that's what these meetings have been about, and we've had some good participation from the community. Anybody else?
I'd just like to thank the people who came out to the public hearings and for their input. And of course, we'll still accept any input on block scheduling.
Next on the agenda is reports of the division superintendent, Mr. Austin. Dr. Austin.
Good evening, Chairman, members of the board. A few updates for you. Community eligibility program, as you're aware, we were awarded that, which basically means that all the students in Lee County Public Schools will receive free lunch for the 16-17 school year. Attribute a lot of that to the efforts that were put forth by school nutrition staff to seek that funding. Tremendous opportunity for our students and for our community. I think that's an incredible opportunity to impact lives beyond just the instruction that we take in the course of the day. As the board members mentioned, we had 3 public input meetings this week. Have had varying levels of feedback on that. Most of it, I want to say, is positive. So unless something changes in the next week or 2, unless I hear something different, administration plans to move forward with drafting a proposal to bring to the board for the September board meeting for consideration. First review of possibly changing high school schedules to a 4x4 block format. First review means, again, that we'll provide some information, continue to take input between now and the September board meeting, but then would move forward with possible action at the October meeting, depending on feedback that we receive over the next 2 months. Again, is the intent of having these hearings for next school year, not next Thursday, for next school year is to have things in place from a budgetary standpoint, from a staffing standpoint, as well as from a professional development standpoint. Next thing, we submitted our most recent round of security equipment grant funds. That request was filed 2 weeks ago, and we're waiting to hear back from Richmond as to whether or not that will be funded. The intent there is to continue moving forward, advancing our use of cameras for security reasons within each of our buildings, as well as buzz-in systems to provide a different level of security. One of those will be here at the school board office. We're looking to add a buzz-in system here to be consistent with what we have in the buildings. Questions so far? Facilities update, we had a meeting last week with the Department of Mines, Mineral and Energy regarding their energy performance contract program. We had 3 vendors who attended. We anticipate getting responses back from those vendors by November 1st. The intent of those 3 vendors, they will come in and look at 3 schools, Flatwoods Elementary, they will look at Thomas Walker, and we'll also look at Pennington Middle. We asked them to look at those 3 buildings specifically because Flatwoods, with the way that the building and buildings are set up, provides some opportunities to change the windows. It's got a lot more windows, a lot more roofs than some of our other elementary schools. I really want to take a look at that building from a facility standpoint and how we use energy in that building. Thomas Walker, much the same, and Pennington, much the same. So that was the reason we chose an elementary, a middle, and a high school, and then geographically, we tried to make sure that we accounted for that also. We will have more information on that in the coming months, but again, we expect a draft version of that back from those companies by November 1st for consideration. I'll address the rest of facilities update. We also had an architectural and engineering firms in last Friday. I'll address that in the action items. Staff meetings, we've had a lot of staff in here at the school board office over the past week. Dr. Brown brought in new teachers day before yesterday and did an in-service with them. We're planning on moving forward with a mentoring program for our new teachers. It's a new program, taking a different approach with assigning our more veteran teachers with our new teachers, whether they're new to Lee County or new to teaching. We want to make sure that we support them throughout the school year. Dr. Brown and her staff did an incredible job putting that together, and it was a very well done program. Ms. Doherty had in school nutrition as well as technology staff this week. The technology contacts that were approved at the last board meeting were in the House yesterday, looking at, actually it was on Monday, and looking at our various technology investments that we make, from hardware all the way through software, taking specific looks at different methods that we communicate, from Outlook to Gmail to Tastering to the various methods that we assess students, interactive achievement, accelerated reader. We're taking a look at everything in technology from an instructional standpoint and also from an operational standpoint. Mr. Dean brought in staff yesterday and they were looking at lesson plans, a different template, trying to get feedback from teachers about what do we need in Lee County to be successful. We do not want teachers spending 10 hours or an inordinate number of hours working on lesson plans that change in the first 15 minutes of a class on Monday. A lesson plan, in my opinion, is intended to be a reflective document that guides what you do throughout an instructional process, not a dissertation you have to write every week. So we are working to change that and have had very good feedback from that committee as well as from other members of teaching staff. So that's an ongoing process and more information to come. Lastly, Mr. Early has met with bus drivers and with custodians and his staff, and it did a very good job putting together a presentation. And also Baycorp was with us yesterday, who is our insurance provider, talking about safety. So we have had a lot of meetings in the last week getting ready for next Thursday. So hats off to staff, and of course from a fiscal standpoint, Denise Lambert and Joe Hobbs continue to guide us through the budget process. We are taking a look at financial software, what we currently are using, and how we might be able to improve that. For a SRO update, we informed the town of Pennington that school board voted at the last meeting to support the concept of having a town of Pennington police officer serve as an SRO at Pennington Middle starting next Thursday. To that end, we had a conversation with the town of Jonesville to see if they would be interested in having a similar concept. Accordingly, Mr. Dean went to a town council meeting last week to present the concept to them of partnering together to staff an SRO at Jonesville Middle. So that conversation was approved by the town council to have a meeting with members of their finance committee and members of our administrative team to come back to the school board at some point September, October, to have a conversation about partial funding of a position similar to what the town of Pennington has. Of course, we will be seeking grant opportunities, whether that's through the town of Jonesville or through the school board. We'll be seeking whatever funding opportunities we can. But either through the town of Jonesville, town of Pennington, or the sheriff's office, we are working to have an SRO in every one of our secondary schools, and conversations with Sheriff Parsons are looking to possibly get one that would service our elementaries as well. So ongoing conversations on several fronts with that. Several back-to-school events. It's in your handout under superintendent's reports. You can see the dates and times for our back-to-school events. Want to really point out that Pennington Middle this year will be doing a simulated school day, which is a tremendous concept to run at a middle school or a high school. You actually run the bell schedule. So hats off to Ms. Collier and her staff for presenting that as an option and moving forward with that. Boundaries update, continue to work with the county GIS as far as boundaries and possible implementation for next school year. Do not have a presentation tonight because it's an ongoing process. We'll be presenting something in September to you for consideration and possible approval in October. So ongoing conversations on several fronts, from facilities to boundaries to other items. So any questions?
Going back to DEMME, they are going to actually do an evaluation of those 3 schools, or some outside group is going to do an evaluation?
3 companies will do an evaluation of those 3 schools and come back to us administratively with a recommendation for the work that they anticipate us needing. And then we will bring that presentation to the school board, and then we will make a determination of whether we want to choose a vendor, and then they will go from what they call a back of the envelope, where basically they do a 30,000-foot view of our facilities, to an investment grade audit, where they will actually come in and look at electrical circuits and the quality of windows and come in with a dollar amount proposal of what it would cost to get our facilities up to grade.
But you're not talking about on the energy conservation side of it, you're talking about just roofs and things like that.
Roofs, windows, anything that we put, doors, anything that could save energy.
Okay.
Energy performance contracting is what they call it.
Okay. Next on the agenda is action and discussion items. Do we have a motion to award a contract for on-call architectural and engineering services, request for proposal number 16-1001?
Regarding this request from administration, we put together a RFP that was approved by the school board in May and requested a request for proposals. That's what RFP stands for. And we had 9 proposals that we received back from architectural and engineering firms for this contract. In-house administratively, we evaluated those 9 proposals and narrowed it to a list of 3. We put together a panel of administration as well as 2 school board members, and appreciate Ms. Jessie and Mr. Kidwell serving on that committee. And we evaluated those 3 proposals. They came in and more or less did an interview, and from those, administration recommends award contract to Thompson and Litton.
Okay. So do we have a motion?
I'll make the motion.
Do we have a second?
Second.
Do we have any discussion? All in favor signify by stating aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. We'll address
Next item, broker and consultant. We did a very similar process for a request for proposals for a broker and consultant for employee benefits program. We received 8 such proposals, narrowed that list in a very similar fashion down to 3, and also had administration and school board members serve on that evaluation committee that interviewed 3 companies. Mr. Hines and Ms. Jessie, thank you for serving on that committee. And from that, administration recommends awarding the contract to Mark III, and in the amount of $25,000. That will provide us with broker as well as consulting services for all of our employees. Going back to the award to Thompson and Litton, that is not for a specific dollar amount. They are on call, which means if we need them for a particular reason, we can contact them. This is for a specific dollar.
Do we have a motion to award a contract for broker consultant for employee benefits to Mark III in the amount of $25,000?
I'll make that motion.
Do we have a second?
I'll second.
Any discussion? I will say that that is more than we've paid in the past for just a broker. As Mr. Austin indicated, this includes some other type of products possibly that can be presented to the employees they might find useful and might want to take advantage of, so hopefully it'll work out. Just wanted to mention that it is more than we've spent in the past, but it's a different level of service, we feel like.
And flexible spending is one of those items that we have addressed administratively to the board in the past.
Okay. Any other discussion? All in favor signify by stating aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries.
Next on the agenda, we have multi-division online provider. Administration put together a team that was headed by Mr. Dean to evaluate, as I mentioned earlier, our online provider, which up to this point has been Odysseyware. We have taken a hard look at different vendors that are approved by the Department of Education, and in a similar manner to what we did with the other two proposals, we vetted those at the administrative level and brought in a committee of 28 to look at 3 interviews of companies that came in. They either did online presentations or either actually came and did a presentation here at the school board office. And from those 3 interviews, the panel, 27 out of 28 of them recommended that we award this contract to Edgenuity. And we will transition from using Odysseyware to a company named Edgenuity. And the intent here is to move us to a 21st century platform of learning. This is an incredible product from what's been advertised, but administratively, the initial cost in this is close to $79,000, which is more than what we've been paying for Odysseyware, but we're moving from this being just an alternative education program to, as proposed, we would be able to offer some world language classes all the way down to middle school. And there's a variety of different languages that you'll see, which is the next item, but the reason that the committee and administration recommends this is just the opportunities that it provides for our students to learn using technology, but then also not just that, but the courses that are available through this company that have already been approved by the Department of Education.
Do we have a motion to award a contract for multi-division online provider? And I guess the company name is Edgenuity.
I make that motion.
Do we have a second?
Second.
Any discussion?
Odysseyware, was it state approved? DOE,
Yes, sir.
DOE approved?
Yes, sir.
As much as the one we're getting here?
It was approved, and in your packet, I included the report that came from the Department of Education. As you can see, Odysseyware provides a few SOL courses, but they do not offer a lot of the electives that come from Edgenuity. There's several school divisions use Edgenuity. Odysseyware, from what is reported with the department, it was just us.
Right. So we're offering more opportunity for students. Even though it costs more, there's more opportunity.
Yes, sir.
That's
Yes, sir.
the point I wanted to make.
And with us doing a one-to-one initiative with teachers starting Monday, when we're handing out Chromebooks, and looking at possibly doing a one-to-one initiative for high school students either in the spring or fall pending available funds. This puts us in a unique position to be able to offer some incredible opportunities to our students. And this is not, I want to say candidly, intended to replace teachers. This is intended to provide students opportunities to be able to meet a requirement that's set by the Board of Education that they take an online course, and then also to provide them skills to be able to function in the 21st century where most of courses at this point are offered online.
Right.
So that's the intent. It's an instructional, operational, and again, just gets back to offering tremendous opportunities to our students
And
that we otherwise couldn't do.
The teachers that will be leading this have to be certified teachers, unlike Odysseyware, correct?
Yes, ma'am. The intent here is code and board regulations say that we have to staff these. If we have a class of 20 that are taking these courses, we have to have a licensed teacher that is certified, that is monitoring that class. So
Don't have to be certified in that course, but just a certified teacher that will be monitoring.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
Any other discussion? All in favor, signify by stating aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
Next item is in the same recommendation from Mr. Dean is a list of courses that are available through Edgenuity. I'm not going to read them all, but for the good of the group, the first item on here is a course called 3D Art 1 Modeling. This is, I don't know about the course, but we will be developing descriptions in collaboration with the information that comes from the Department of Education. But 3D Art 1 Modeling is probably not something we would offer in Lee County because it's not something that we can staff. As you flip across and you look, the middle school world language courses on page 3 or 4, Spanish, French, Chinese, and German, that we could possibly offer to our middle school students. And these are, from what we understand, and Latin is another one. Latin's a course that used to be taught years ago, but to be able to offer that to our 7th or 8th graders, it would not be for high school credit, but just to get them used to being able to take a foreign language and learn that skill, I think is an incredible opportunity for our young people. And that being said, the other caveat to that is with all of the world languages, it's not just a program where they punch numbers. They actually do an assessment, and it is sent off, to our understanding, to a teacher who is licensed in Virginia, who actually grades those and then sends the results back to students. So students will still get grades for courses, but they'll be able to learn online, I'm going to say, at their own pace. If a student comes in and, with the approval of the board last month, we waived the 140-hour requirement to earn a credit. If a student comes in and they already know Spanish because they're from a Hispanic family, they could take Spanish 1 in 3 weeks, pass it, and go on to Spanish 2. So it provides some incredible opportunities for our students to meet them where they are and be able to move them forward where they want to go. As presented, administration recommends approval.
Do we have a motion to approve elective courses for, per school board policy IKFD alternative paths to attaining standard units of credit?
Make the motion.
Do we have a second?
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor signify by stating aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries.
Next item is a first review of a school board policy proposal that was submitted last month and was tabled. And this is to take a look at our staff leave and absence policy. Currently, we have a local regulation, which this would change to a board regulation, which means that for anything to change in this policy, we administratively would have to come to you for approval. I'm not going to go through the entire policy, as we've struck quite a bit and have consulted with Mr. Sturgill to make sure that we're in compliance with all the other legal requirements. This is not a VSBA policy, so we do not have the protections of the Virginia School Board Association. So this is a locally drafted that is from VSBA that we have to develop regulations for. So the high spots of the proposed changes, and understand it's out in the community that you're voting on this tonight. Administration is not requesting a vote. This is not an action item this evening. This is intended to be a first review and is a discussion item. Administration will answer questions as they come forth. First thing is holiday leave, as proposed, would remove Election Day, Christmas Eve, and New Year's Day from being holidays. And those 3 holidays that would then be moved to be inclusive or consecutive with Christmas, so that that holiday break is longer. The intent there is schools are open on Election Day anyhow. It would help us to have staff there. There's other things that we can do even though there are no students there, but we have to have staff there usually on Election Day anyhow, as one example. Personal business leave, as you're aware, in the past we have charged employees $60 per day for professional staff, $30 a day for support staff to take a personal business day. We allot them a maximum, well, allot them 2 and a maximum of 4, but we charge them for those days. Administration recommends that we change that and allow 2 paid leave days, changing it from personal business leave to just paid leave, 2 paid leave days per year. And those would roll over as described herein up to a maximum of 4. And then at the end of a fiscal year, if we got to June 30, then those extra days would roll over to sick leave as proposed. Sick leave, the next item, if you go over to page 7 of the policy, 2 things that we proposed on here is, first of all, putting a cap on the number of sick leave days that can be earned, depending on the contract length, whether you're 9 months, 10 months, 11 months, or a 12-month contract. There are also proposals in here that can take into consideration VRS Plan 1 and Plan 2 people, staff versus VRS hybrid. The big difference there is anybody who was hired after, what year would that be? 2014. Come here if it's 13 or 14. But we're hired after that, come in under a hybrid plan. And as part of the hybrid plan, you as a school board pay for short-term disability insurance. There's a portion of that comes from the state also. So that's why there's a difference between Plan 1, Plan 2 staff could accumulate more days because if they take those days, they get that pay. Whereas VRS hybrid, if they take those days past that, they're on the short-term disability insurance. So that's the reason for the difference there. The other piece there is by capping those days, we've had several staff, because before this proposal, it was $20 a day is what we were is in policy to pay people, individuals who retired or who retired or paid $20 per day. As presented, we would pay people, staff, their per diem rate up to a maximum of $10,000. So as presented, even though with the cap, you still would end up possibly with more money at retirement than you currently would have. So this is not intended to be, we're going to take days away from people. This is intended to put a cap in to protect the school board on the number of days that we're responsible for, but then also be able to pay individuals who are responsible with paid leave and actually earn those. The next policy that we've got to discuss will also address that, and I'll talk about that in a minute. The next thing is we struck the entire section on reserve military duty leave, and the reason is because that's already covered in VSBA covered policy. We didn't need to develop something at the local level to address that because it's covered through VSBA. Vacation leave, we clarified some language on this one as proposed, clarified the number of days based on experience, and also really clarify the number of days that can be carried over each year. The language that had been in here previously was a little gray, so we clarified that to where the maximum number of vacation days that an individual can have is 20 at any given time. The most that an individual could earn is 15 in any 1 year and then carry 5 over. The dollar amount did not change as proposed for vacation payouts if an individual leaves us, whether they retire or they leave us to take another job. They would get their payout of vacation up to a maximum of $5,000. The next thing, item I on page 10, cannot find anything in policy that really addresses overtime, and I'm going to say compensation time, compensatory time, which is comp time. Have proposed some language here to really clarify that, to make sure that we have some overtime procedures in place and expectations, and then also the ability to earn some comp time. That from the school board standpoint, if an individual wants to work over, they have a choice of either taking comp time or with supervisor, their approval of their immediate supervisor, they can be paid for that. So have laid out some general ground rules here. The intent of the first review is, again, to have a discussion as a school board between administration and school board, and also to post these on the website tomorrow for feedback from the community, whether it comes to you or whether it comes to us. So again, not an action item this evening. This is just for discussion as a first review. Leave change, one of the things is if you get to the end of the year, you realize, well, that day that I took in October, I should have taken that as a vacation day because it looks like I'm going to lose it. We've established a time frame in here that you can go back and change the days that you took in the fall that you may be losing this spring and change them to sick days so that you can accumulate them. So we've tried to address that, set forth a procedure in there. And then we've established a denial of requested leave and then unauthorized leave. If somebody decides they're going to take off and don't notify us, how we would address that. So as presented, again, just for first review, for comments, and especially for feedback from the community as we move forward. But again, first review tonight, and the administration will be glad to answer any questions that you may have.
Questions, any comments? You move on.
Okay, moving on to the next item. Staff attendance incentive. This is the accompanying board regulation that would accompany the change in leave policy. As presented, are recommending that if an individual has more than 60 sick days, 60 and as presented, it would basically give an individual 3 months off with pay. So trying to make sure that an individual has a reasonable security of being able to take some time off. But if they have been with us for, as proposed, more than 3 consecutive years in a contracted position, they have accumulated at least 60 sick days and are in good standing with the school board through the evaluation process, then that individual would be eligible to basically cash out any sick days they have above 60, pending available funding. So as presented, that rate would be at whatever the school board establishes as the degreed teacher substitute rate. So if, for example, I was a teacher or a staff member who have 90 sick days, then I could cash out, as defined, a maximum of 20 in any 1 year, but anything over 60. So I could cash out 20 of my 90 days at the substitute rate and get that check in May or June. In order to provide a high degree of security on the financial standpoint, this would be a decision. Available funding would be determined by the school board at the February board meeting. And we would determine that based on the average daily membership that we saw at September 30. And the February board meeting, we've usually have a pretty good idea of where we're going to be on March 31st, which is payday for a school division. So that's the reason we can kind of earmark however much money that may be available, and then we can work through the procedures that you see listed here, as far as basically, in most instances, first come, first serve, but then also a seniority component included in there also. In recognition of the fact that we have a lot of our staff who have more days than what would be in the previous proposal of the cap, we would work to pay those days down between now and, as proposed, 2021. That gives us some time from a budgetary standpoint to go through and develop processes and procedures to be able to help individuals get those number of days down, but also keep compensation consistent within the $5,000 payout, the $10,000 payout upon retirement or upon leaving us for whatever reason. So again, this is a first review, open for comment from school board members and of course the public. The intent is to put this out there and let's have some conversations. So, any questions at this point?
Yeah, besides presenting this tonight, do you have plans to present this, say, during the first few days of school, before school starts, the teachers all meet in groups? Somebody will present this to them, give them the information, let them ask questions?
What I plan on doing is going to staff meetings, going to faculty meetings. I plan on making myself available for a variety of reasons, but one of them being this. I feel like in a big setting like we're going to have on Monday and Tuesday, when teachers are going to be a Lehigh for the in-service days, with the numbers that'll be there, it may not be as open for discussion as I anticipate faculty meetings. So tomorrow when we meet with principals, I'm going to offer to come to their faculty meetings to discuss this, share this as a concept, and then go from there.
When
Good
will
question.
the first advisory committee meeting be?
It will be on, it's the second Monday after board meeting, so what will that be?
So it would be after the board meeting.
Yes, ma'am. I don't have a calendar in front of me. What's that?
Talk about communications?
Yes, communication. Okay.
Communications,
You gonna
whichever it's being,
29th.
whichever it's being called.
I think it's August 29th, communication
It's going to
committee.
be presented then.
Yes.
Okay. Because I'm already getting phone calls, and text messages asking about this, and so I think there's gonna be a lot of questions, and a lot
I
of,
understand.
a lot of concern about what the implications are of it, and how it's gonna affect people, certainly with what they've already obtained as far as their benefits and whatever, so wanna make sure they get all the information. Everybody feels good about it, or not, so.
And keep in mind, it's a proposal with intent that if there are things that we need to tweak and make it better, fine, we'll make changes. The administration's not saying this is the final draft. This is just our first proposal and looking for feedback
When it will be put on the website.
tomorrow.
Okay. And that way they'll have time to look at it.
Mr. Fields is smiling.
Any other discussion? If no other discussion, we'll move on to board comments. Anyone have any comments this time?
With what Dr. Austin was just talking about with the sick days and vacation days, we're trying to do the fair thing, trying to save money, to put money back into the classrooms for the kids. But yet on the other hand, it's not that we're taking away and put you in a bind that if something was to happen, that you did become ill, that, you know, you would be in a bad situation. We were trying to figure out the fair thing to have here and do it fair straight across the board. So it's not like we're trying to take away. It's actually trying to better what we have.
You have a comment?
Just wish everybody good luck next week. Hope you're ready.
Yeah, I was gonna say the same thing. I think there's been a lot of, three of us down on this end of the table have been here for 8 months now. there's been a lot of changes, I think, that have taken place, and I hope they're good. We certainly got a superintendent that's full of ideals and things. And I think has some good ideas too. Yes. But, no, we really have seen a lot of changes, and I think we'll continue to. And always let us know if you think we're doing the right thing or not doing the right thing, or if you have ideals that you think can make things better. I have a child in school, so I want to see our schools be great, so I'll leave it at that. Anybody else? All right. Do we have a motion to go into a closed session?
Mr. Chairman, I make a motion to go into closed session to discuss Personnel Code of Virginia 2.2-3711A1, School Crisis Plans Code of Virginia 2.2-3711A19, and pending and threatened litigation Code of Virginia 2.2-3711A7.
Do we have a second?
I'll second.
Any discussion? All in favor, signify by stating aye. Aye.